going on, everybody? It's Day, aka Sports Talk TV here, and I'm here to recap, the recent news that went on in the NFL world. Kyler Murray signed with the Minnesota Vikings on a one-year deal, and this is a very interesting signing to me. You look at Kyler Murray's career as the former number one overall pick. Of course, he only played one full season in Oklahoma. Of course, that season was phenomenal. He won the Heisman, um, and then he led Oklahoma to the college football playoff. And then, of course, they lost to, I believe it was Alabama. I could be wrong, but I know that they for sure lost in the college football playoff. And he was a highly touted prospect. Half of the people thought he was actually going to play baseball because he's a very good baseball player. But he chose football, and I think that was a smart choice. But that's a different discussion for another day. Um, but he was a highly touted prospect, even though there were concerns about his height. And that's discussed. Around. You see a lot of jokes on social media regarding his height. That could be limitations to him in the NFL as at the quarterback position. So since he's been in the NFL, he was obviously drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, who aren't known for developing quarterbacks, and they really aren't a winning franchise. If I'm just being honest, I mean, I believe they have zero Super Bowls in their franchise. They've been to one in 2008 when they had that playoff run. But that's really, I mean, they made the NFC Championship. They lost to Carolina that one year. I think it was 2016, maybe. But really, besides that, Arizona just hasn't done anything. So he gets drafted by them, and his first, I would want to say, 3 years, he looked really good. He looked like, honestly, like a lot of analysts thought he could be a elite quarterback in the National Football League. Um, and that's what he was looking like. And then, of course, I think that, like his first season, he was drafted by a terrible Arizona team. They won 5 games. The next year, they win 7 or 8 games. And then they make the playoffs and they got blown off the field by the LA Rams in the playoffs. And then, of course, the next year he plays and then he tears his ACL. So I think the one thing that's very interesting, I think in my opinion, the reason why he looked like such a different quarterback than what he's looked right now is because of Cliff Kingsbury. You pair him with a good offensive minded coach, into a playbook, a system that he's very familiar with, and he looks really good. So, but since then, and then of course, like, that was the quarterback head coach combo in Arizona for like 3, 4 years, and then the fourth year it became really bad. I believe they're like a 3, 4 win team. I mean, I think even the team gave up on Cliff Kingsbury, and that led to him being fired. But and then Murray after his ACL injury, Arizona they hired Jonathan Gannon, who's a defensive-minded head coach, and their offensive coordinator was Drew Peltzing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but Peltzing. And he's not like known as like an offensive guru. So and Murray coming off that serious ACL injury, he just didn't look the same. He didn't look the same athletically. He looked like you know without his athleticism and considering his height deficiency in the NFL, it made him into a limited average quarterback. And you guys know how it is in the NFL. It's a uh, results based business. You got to produce results. Otherwise, a lot of people are gonna they're gonna double think about you. So, and being drafted number one overall, you're expected to turn the franchise around into the right direction. And Murray didn't really do that exactly. Now, it wasn't his fault, and the injuries, held him back. But at the end of the day, and then when they did hire Gannon, I believe he came back half a season, his first season, but the Cardinals were terrible. The next year they did improve to like I think it was a 7 or 8 win season, which was decent. And then of course his past year, it just all fell down, and he got hurt again, with the foot injury, and then the Cardinals released him. But now he signs with the Minnesota Vikings, who are a well-coached team. Now, if you look at the Minnesota Vikings, and real quick, when I finish on Murray, of course, the Arizona thing, he didn't turn around that franchise, and it didn't work out at the end. Whether it was some of it was on Murray, but you can put like a bulk of it on Arizona, just not putting a good team around him. But you know, it is what it is. When you're the number one pick, you're gonna have high expectations, and it's up to you whether you meet those expectations or not. And so now, but he signs with the Minnesota Vikings. So the Minnesota Vikings 2 years ago, they were a 14-win team with Sam Darnold, and nobody thought that they could be that good with Sam Darnold, considering Sam Darnold's track record before then. And then, of course, like that year in Minnesota, they spent a first round pick on J.J. McCarthy, and I wasn't that high on J.J. McCarthy coming out the draft, but I'll do a mock draft, with draft season coming up. The draft's going to be here next month. I'll probably make a mock draft on the week of the draft, but the Vikings, they spend a first round pick on J.J. McCarthy, and he didn't play his first year because he got hurt. I don't know the exact injury, I think it was a torn meniscus, but don't quote me on that. So he was injured. He missed the season. Sam Darnold balled out. Minnesota wins 14 games, and they lose in the wild card against the Rams. And then Minnesota let Sam Darnold leave to go to Seattle because they wanted to invest in their first round pick on J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy this past season, he was hurt, for some of it, but for the most part, he just wasn't very good. And, it's his first season in the National Football League. And let me just adjust my camera here. It's his first season in the National Football League, but, when you're on a team that has won 14 games the year before, who has a stud receiver in Justin Jefferson, and who has a really good defense coached by Brian Flores, you're expected to at least make the playoffs. And you're expecting J.J. McCarthy to play better because he wasn't good at all. And on top of that, he kept getting hurt. So, and to prove how bad he was, they went and signed Kyler Murray to a 1-year deal. I don't know the exact terms of the contract, like in terms of the money, but it's a 1-year deal. I think Kyler Murray's going to win the job. I just don't think JJ has done enough to win the job over Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray, it's the same thing as like in Atlanta with Tua and Michael Penix. Tua is just more proven than Michael Penix. He's proven to win games in the National Football League. He's proven to play at a high level. In this case with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, Kyler Murray's obviously more proven than J.J. McCarthy. He's won more games. And sure, Kyler Murray hasn't been sensational since he's been in the NFL, but he's been a whole lot better than J.J. McCarthy. We have to go by what we've seen, so far in the National Football League. So you look at this deal, and it's just very interesting to me because Kyler Murray, now he's reunited with Kevin O'Connell, who's a good coach, a good offensive mind. You have Justin Jefferson at wide receiver. We'll see what's going on with Jordan Addison. He's been having off the field issues, time and time in. And they have a very good defense. So the Minnesota Vikings, they have a solid team with a solid signing in Kyler Murray. It's way too early to predict how they would do, this upcoming season. It's still way too early, too premature to do that as we're still in the first week of free agency. We still have to go through the draft, OTAs, training camps, if teams want to do some trades, because they can't get extensions done or contracts, just stuff like that. But I will say this, I think Minnesota, they can compete for the NFC North. I mean, like for how bad J.J. McCarthy was this past season, or really the quarterback play, the Minnesota Vikings were 9-8. And they were able to still finish that good because they're just a well-coached team. And Justin Jefferson still had 1,000 yards, which shows the greatness of Justin Jefferson. It's like if Kyler Murray can bring good quarterback play, I think the Minnesota Vikings can compete in the NFC North, considering they still have the coaching staff. And they did reshape their roster, but so has pretty much every single NFL team. They've reshaped their roster. So Yeah, I mean, I like this for Minnesota. I like this for Kyler Murray. It's a good bargain for sure. It's a 1 year prove it deal. And I think Minnesota, they could be a good solid team. They could make some noise in the NFC coming up. So we'll see how that goes. Besides that, no really major acquisitions in, NFL free agency, no, major trades going on, just teams filling in their rosters. But yeah, I wanted to come in here and make the video on that because I think it's a bigger signing than we all think. We'll come out with a mock draft, on the week of the draft next month. If there's anything that happens in the NFL world, I will come in here and recap it. For the time being, thank you guys for watching, and you guys take care and stay safe.